China is a country that is severely affected by monsoon weather and frequent meteorological disasters. Regional and partial droughts occur almost every year. Around 7 tropical cyclones hit the eastern coastal areas annually, and because of China's location right in the region where the Eurasian, Pacific and Indian Ocean plates meet, it experiences roughly 1/3 of the world's significant earthquakes that occur on land, with the majority taking place within its mainland regions. But vulnerability to disasters is not solely a matter of where a person lives, but also depends on the way they live. Chinese communities share common characteristics, such as large growing concentrations of people living in badly constructed, crowded cities, with a high proportion of people living in poverty. Rapid urbanization and inadequate planning makes these densely populated areas much more vulnerable. The Qing Dynasty in China was facing a myriad of internal and external challenges. Political corruption, internal rebellions, and foreign aggression had weakened the once mighty empire. The economy was unstable, the government was ineffective, and the people were suffering. Yet, as if these troubles were not bad enough, Mother Nature decided to add to the turmoil. The year 1876 marked the beginning of one of the most severe droughts in China's history, a drought that would lead to a devastating famine in the northern provinces of Henan, Shandong, Shanxi, Hebei, and Shanxi. The Qing government, already struggling with numerous issues, was ill-prepared to deal with such an event. As the sun beat down relentlessly, its scorching rays seemed to extract the very life force from the once fertile fields. Crops withered and died, leaving vast expanses of barren land in their wake. The provinces, heavily reliant on agriculture, were in a position they had never been in before. Villagers from all provinces that had thrived for generations now faced famine. The scarcity of food led to skyrocketing prices, pushing basic sustenance out of reach for the common man, and the communities were pushed to the brink of survival. Famine victims were forced to kill any livestock, pawn their farming tools, clothes, fields, and even take apart their houses to sell what materials they could in a desperate effort to afford food. Extensive coverage of the disaster unfolded in newspapers, published in both Chinese and English, making it a focal point which captured international attention. The extent of this calamity prompted not only the Qing government, but also philanthropists from both China and the Western world to aid in whatever way they could. The Chinese government tried to organize relief efforts, but they were woefully inadequate. The corruption and inefficiency that plagued the government only exacerbated the situation. Aid that was meant for the starving often ended up in the pockets of corrupt officials. In this time of adversity, the people of northern China displayed a resilience. It was a time when the human spirit, tested by the severity of circumstance, shone brightest. Communities rallied together, sharing meagre resources and supporting one another during this time of desperation. In the midst of this, acts of kindness became beacons of hope, and solidarity emerged as a powerful force against the relentless grip of the famine. Unfortunately, it would not be enough. As weeks of famine turned to months and months to years, there became reports of human cannibalism being practiced in various forms as a result of the famine. To survive, people were forced to eat whatever they could find, including grass, tree bark, and sometimes even other people. Timothy Richard was a Welsh missionary for China who played an active role in the relief operations, and was actually one of the first to report on the famine. He was aware that famine conditions were particularly worse in Shanxi, and so in 1878, years after the drought had initially started, Timothy travelled to Shanxi to see for himself how bad things were. The diary he took with him had described the conditions he saw.
People pull down their houses, sell their wives and daughters, eat roots, carrion, clay, and leaves is news which nobody wonders at. It is the regular thing. If this were not enough to move one's pity, the sight of men and women lying helpless on the roadside, or if dead, torn by hungry dogs and magpies, should do. And the news which has reached up, even the last few days, of children being boiled and eaten up, is so fearful as to make one shudder at the thought.
According to the text accompanying this illustration, a man from one of the disaster-stricken provinces described how he passed a butcher's gate that was displaying different kinds of human meat. He saw that a young woman was about to be cooked, so he rushed home to get money, hoping to buy her life, but unfortunately, by the time he arrived back at the gate, the woman had already been killed. Other illustrations depict the agonies experienced by women after they were sold to wealthy human traders who would beat and abuse them and often transport them to brothels in Shanghai. As hard as it may be to take these accounts as fact, when confronted with the grim prospect of a slow and agonizing death through starvation, individuals may experience a profound awakening of their primal instinct to survive. In the face of such a dire situation, the innate drive for self-preservation becomes the paramount force, ignoring all other considerations. The desperate urgency to find sustenance overrides moral and ethical boundaries, pushing individuals to do whatever is necessary to stave off the impending hunger. The toll of this drought was staggering. It is estimated that 9 to 13 million lives succumbed to the harshness of the famine. Each life lost represented a story untold, dreams unfulfilled, and a void left in the hearts of those who remained. The meteorological culprit behind this catastrophe was identified as the El Niño Southern Oscillation weather pattern, a force of nature that, in its oscillation, brought forth extremes, be it droughts or floods, but in the end, the drought and famine was not just a natural disaster, but a stark reflection of the failings of the Qing government and the dire state of China. The drought laid bare the corruption and inability of the government to protect its own people. In the aftermath of such a disaster, the people of China displayed an extraordinary will to survive, a testament to their resilience and strength. The tragedy also served as a catalyst for reform, highlighting the urgent need for change and sparking discussions that would eventually lead to the fall of the Qing Dynasty and the birth of a new China. If you did make it to the end of the video and you feel like you got something out of it, please consider subscribing. Thank you, and goodbye.